we're beginning this drama of a week that's about to unfold. And I think that the fact that the church thrusts the people straight into the middle of it by making them the crowd, if the priest chooses to do the dialogical Passion of St. Matthew,
and where they have to say those words,
crucify him, crucify him. Welcome back to Closing the Social Distance. It's Sunday, the 5th of April, and today is the Palm Sunday of the Lord's Passion, the second Sunday of Passiontide, traditionally. And here we are. It's a beautiful day. It's the start of Holy Week, and yet at the same time, we miss having all of you here. This is a beautiful liturgical day, and I have to be honest with you. When I was first assigned here, when I knew that I would be coming here as a newly ordained priest, I came out at your all's invitation to
while
serve
still a deacon.
While still a deacon, a humble, lowly deacon, and I was here for Palm Sunday and the day before, and we did a retreat with the Frassati group on the day before that too, and I ended up serving as deacon, I think, at 9 Palm Sunday masses over the course of 2 days. Maybe it was 8. Was it only 7?
It was 7.
But we added the extra one for the Frassati group.
So there are 6 regular Sunday nights.
I can barely remember anything at this point. All I'm saying is those are not short masses in which to serve as deacon, preach every mass, and serve as the narrator for the Passion. You see, that was the endurance test. And then at the end of the day, you and me and we all had to serve in putting the veils on all the statues and the cross, and it was one of the longest days I can remember. It was an intense day of liturgy.
Well, and you want to add more to that. Remember, because you were at the 6 p.m. Mass, you didn't have dinner.
I forgot about that.
So we went out for wings at, was it 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
I don't even remember. It all just blends together. It was intense. I don't even really like wings that much, but I loved wings that night. That was desperately needed. But I think that there's something really powerful about Palm Sunday. Perhaps it's because traditionally you start outside, or at the very least at the back of the church, with a first gospel and the prayer of blessing of the palms. And so you can sense, after all these weeks of Lenten purple, suddenly we're in passionate red, and we're beginning this drama of a week that's about to unfold. And I think that the fact that the church thrusts the people straight into the middle of it by making them the crowd, if the priest chooses to do the dialogical Passion of St. Matthew,
and where they have to say those words,
crucify him, crucify him. Absolutely. It's jarring, because the same people who a few minutes earlier sang Hosanna to the Son of David, now, or at least in a few minutes later, then say, crucify him, crucify him. It's jarring, it's painful, and yet it's one of the more deeply affecting moments, I think, of Holy Week, and that we have that right at the very outset. It's always made a strong impression.
The way that the church treats the Passion is that we get to experience it twice on Holy Week, right? Because we have one of the synoptic Passions. Matthew is the traditional one, and the one that we have this year on Sunday, and then on Good Friday we have John's Passion. The tradition of this recitation of the Passion, this experience of it, is so important that the church has long thought that we need to go through it twice.
In the traditional, it depends on the version, because the Holy Week rites changed in the 50s before they were reformed in the late 60s, but they actually had all 4 passions over the course of Holy Week.
Oh, really?
You would read Matthew on Sunday, Mark and Luke, and then John on Good Friday. And so you got all the passions.
You got them all.
It was a passionate week. I don't know if the Dominican Rite did this, but I know that the Roman Rite back before 55, I guess, or whenever Pius XII reformed the Holy Week rites. The actual blessing of the palms was structured like a mass. It was really interesting. There was a collect, There was an antiphon, a collect, there was an epistle, there was a responsory, there was a gospel, and then they actually did the Sanctus, a preface, the Sanctus, and then 5 prayers. It was like a mini mass that would be celebrated outside or beforehand for the blessing of the palms.
That's intense.
It really is intense. And then they would distribute the palms like Holy Communion. Everyone would come to the rail and they would kiss the priest's hand and then the palm as they were handed the palm. So it was like this first kind of parallel, and then the true mass, like the full mass, began right afterwards. Really interesting, like when I learned that, I thought that is quite striking, and you can still sense that in the way that the celebrant is kind of doing a first gospel, doing a first act of blessing, a first kind of consecration of these things that before we then proceed into the church and celebrate the fullness of that mass. I'm sorry.
I'm really being struck by Palm Sunday as a child and the whole experience and the pageantry of it. But actually, as a priest, I've generally found Palm Sunday very stressful.
As a deacon, I found it stressful for reasons I just told you. But
yeah.
What do you think makes it stressful?
Well, we have this whole additional rite in the beginning, and then with the structure of masses at St. Gertrude, we had to do that all in 65 minutes.
Yes. With the Passion and with all the other parts of a very solemn day,
And to give people, the fullness of everything, and yet.
I remember being threatened that my homily had better be short on that back in 2018 when I came for Palm Sunday. And it had to be because we had to keep it moving in order to ensure that people could. It was a relief to get to the 12:30 because there wasn't a mass right afterwards. And so we could do the longer procession. Heck, you could preach for almost 5 minutes if you wanted. You could go wild.
It is interesting that this is one of those places where in the Roman Missal, in the book that the priest uses at the chair, it says a brief
homily. I wish we had those words more weeks of the year. I think that those would be essential words for most priests to absorb. But still, we won't dwell on that. One of the other aspects of Palm Sunday that has struck me about the way we do it here is that traditionally, like at the end of Mass on Palm Sunday, they don't actually sing a very complicated song or a hymn. They sing the Taizé antiphon, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Mm-hmm. And gradually it becomes just an a cappella singing of it. Like the organ kind of fades away as the ministers, as the servers and the priests, as they process out. And that always was so moving because it's one of those songs that everyone sings because it's just repeating the same musical phrase over and over again. Yeah. But even after doing it 7 or however many times I did it that week and in successive years, it never has gotten old. Like I've always thought it was just a very moving expression of what Holy Week is all about. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. So that's one thing I'll miss, especially this year. And I really I look forward to having it again in some future year. Maybe we could mention briefly about the palm situation because we have gotten a bunch of questions. Don't worry, this is not a substitute for Ask Father Anything. It's Ask Father Everything. So we can precisely.
Well, so like many parishes, or like probably most parishes, we actually placed our order for palms and made the deposit and were committed to it before there was any suggestion that public masses would be suspended.
Sure.
And so we have all of the palms that we would have normally, or nearly all the palms that we would have normally. And we, because we have, the novitiate here, because we have
a full convent of friars.
A full convent of friars will be able to have the full Palm Sunday celebration, which means that we'll be blessing the palms at our liturgy, and we will leave them in baskets in the church for the first 4 days of Holy Week for people to come and claim before we close the church for the Triduum, just as long as you don't all come to claim them at once.
Social distancing still applies, tragically. Yeah. But I love palms. Catholics love free stuff. Let's face it. The most popular days of the year are days where you get free stuff. People love Ash Wednesday. It's not a holy day of obligation, and yet people go nuts. They want ashes, and I think people love palms on Palm Sunday. Growing up, we always had palms in our crucifixes. We would have, my grandmother would do these kind of palm knitting, make little palm crosses. I've seen palm baskets and things that people make, elaborate stuff. I never succeeded. My palms would always break or get too brittle before I could master it. But it's a beautiful sacramental and one that we're glad that people, if you all are interested, you can come and get it in a safe way, taking them from the baskets, which we'll leave in the church, and a kind of physical way to stay connected to this beautiful sacramental and save them, through next year, because traditionally they're burned for making the ashes on Ash Wednesday. So there's a nice kind of symmetry there. Free stuff that you then return and get more free stuff from, So what more could you want? I think that in a special way, as we start off this Holy Week, we've been saying it almost every episode, folks, but it's worth saying again. We miss you a lot, and we miss having you here to celebrate these high holy days. And we're doing our best to hopefully help you keep and mark these great solemnities with your families at home in a way that's safe and in a way that helps honor the great mystery of salvation that Christ has achieved. And so we remind you to follow up on what's going on our special schedule for this week and next, which we've posted online and on the doors of the church. We encourage you to come and after Sunday afternoon through Wednesday evening, come get a palm or several if you want for your family. And most of all, keep praying for us. We're praying for you. And we look forward to being able to celebrate holy days in years to come with everybody present. So in the meantime, have a good start to this week of passion, suffering, and glory, and hopefully a week that is really holy for all of us. God bless you, and we'll be seeing you soon.